You must not live like this, my friend. You absolutely must not live so miserably like this.
The emergency bell rang out noisily.
Another accident. Who is it today?
The staff, now numb to the frequent accidents, looked at the emergency situation board with annoyed and indifferent expressions. However, strangely, I felt a sharp tension pulling taut all the nerves in my body.
It's Factory 9. The mobile strike team has already been dispatched.
With the security clerk's report at my back, hoping that my ominous premonition would prove wrong, I flew across the main corridor of Cheongsong Prison and turned the corner of the parade ground toward Factory 9. Oh no. The moment I arrived at the scene, strength drained from my legs, and I even felt dizzy. From the windows on all sides of the second floor of the newly built Factory 9 next to the back gate, red flames were licking out like a snake's tongue, along with black smoke. The area around the factory was extremely busy, with staff who had rushed over at the urgent emergency bell sound. Who is it? The inmates inside there.
Ah, Section Chief! Jeongho and a few guys were rioting, and now they've even set a fire.
That Jeongho guy again. What about the factory entrance iron door? Is it locked or open?
That hasn't been confirmed yet. We can't get up to the second floor. The flames in the corridor are too fierce, and they've lined up thinner cans at the factory entrance and inside.
Inside, the factory was packed full of work cardboard boxes and wood, and with several thinner cans moved there as well. It was an urgent situation where it could explode at any moment. The site supervisor staff reported breathlessly with a tearful face that if we didn't suppress it quickly, even if not because of the fire, they would all soon die suffocated by toxic gas. I gave orders to quickly send up the mobile strike team to suppress them, but they said they couldn't rashly dispatch the suppression team because 4 inmates were holding the supervisor guard as a hostage, making it difficult. Above all, the rioters had poured thinner all over the hostage's body and were threatening that if anyone forcibly came up, they would light it with a lighter and all die together, making it even more cautious to move. Below, the staff were continuously shouting futile yells toward the second floor scene, trying to persuade them. Right then, a face appeared outside the bathroom window where smoke was seeping out from inside the factory. It was Jeongho, Factory 9's work foreman. Due to his violent personality and vicious criminal charges, he had been continuously designated as a surveillance subject and received special management. But when Factory 9 was newly established, he was selected as work foreman and had been getting along fairly well until now. Moreover, he frequently came to me asking for help because so-and-so in his factory had too difficult family circumstances, and each time I granted his requests big or small, so he was always grateful for receiving help and bowed his head. However, could one truly not abandon one's innate nature and temperament after all? I felt betrayal welling up and anger boiling over, as he was spewing all kinds of curses toward the staff shouting from below. When his eyes met mine directly, he flinched and instantly hid his body back inside the factory. Seeing that, I quickly worked my mind. If that fellow is embarrassed enough to avoid me like that after seeing me, it means he still has some sense of burden about gratitude, so even in the worst case, he won't harm my life. With that conviction, my heart became bold, and the situation was judged even more coldly. In that state, they can't endure more than 20 minutes. The fire had spread almost throughout the sealed factory, and the toxic gas and flames were at saturation level, thinner cans that could explode at any moment. What would become of the fate of the guard held hostage and Jeongho, the riot ringleader, and the other 3 inmates? I decided without hesitation on the action I would take. Let's go up. The Lord will protect us. I decided to stake my fate on the single fact that the ringleader Jeongho avoided my face. I practically snatched the gas mask from the staff member right beside me and covered my face with it. And in preparation for a possible situation, I stuck a gas gun in my waistband and climbed the narrow stairs toward the corridor thickly filled with smoke. Right at that moment, someone was running up the stairs behind me and grabbed my arm. When I glanced back, I couldn't recognize the face because of the gas mask, but seeing the 4 mugunghwa flowers gleaming on the combat uniform collar, it was the security section chief.
Section Chief Park. Whether we die or live, Let's go up together.
Several years ago at Busan Prison, when inmates held the warden hostage and rioted, he was a courageous senior section chief who volunteered to become a hostage in place of the warden, persuaded them, and ultimately suppressed them. At this Chief Kim's resolute words, lifting the rubber under the gas mask's air purifier and breathing heavily, fighting spirit surged in me too, and I firmly grasped this wonderful man's hand and charged toward the burning second floor. Fortunately, the entrance door only had an iron bolt on it, so we could enter the factory without difficulty. As expected, the materials piled on all sides were engulfed in flames, and the water continuously shot up from the lower floor, splashed up to our ankles. I hurriedly threw the thinner cans out into the corridor outside the factory and looked around the scene once more. To avoid the heat from the flames and the suffocating toxic gas, the rioting inmates had already taken refuge inside the narrow bathroom in the corner of the factory, dragging the hostage guard. But that place wasn't very safe either. If they came outside, it would be 2 against 4 numerically, so we would be absolutely disadvantaged. However, if they remained crowded inside as now, because it was such a narrow space, they could only stand in a single line, so the Chief Kim and I instinctively knew that the number 4 had no real meaning. We quickly ran to the bathroom door front, secured the entrance, and briefly grasped the situation inside through the thick smoke. At the very front, Minion 1, next Minion 2. Behind him, the guard who had fainted with an enormous amount of thinner sprayed on his body. Jeongho had his arm wrapped around the unconscious man's neck from behind, and with his other hand held a lighter to his head, screaming madly, "If you forcibly suppress and come in, I'll light it and we'll all die." At the very back, Minion 3. Chief Kim threw off his gas mask at the doorway and persuaded them.
Stop now and end this. Any more is too much for both sides.
Right at that moment, Minion 1 swiftly reached out his hand and sharply pulled the chief's arm.
Let's take this chief hostage.
I instinctively hugged his waist from behind, as he was being dragged in and held on. They also exerted themselves to pull us inside. We were 2, they were 4, but because of the staff member who had collapsed limply in the middle, the 2 people behind couldn't add their strength to the situation at all. So ultimately, the human tug-of-war in the flames could only be a 2 against 2 fight. When both sides were getting exhausted from pulling with all our might, I whispered in Chief Kim's ear, "Let's push in on the count of 1, 2, 3. The moment I counted 1, 2, 3, we simultaneously threw our bodies into the bathroom and covered them. Standing in a single line in the narrow space as they pulled us, they fell over each other like dominoes, person on top of person. As I charged in over them, I glimpsed Jeongho trying to set fire to the guard's head with the lighter. However, fortunately, no matter how many times he tried, the fire wouldn't ignite. Probably the moisture sprayed from the fire hose had wetted the lighter. It's a hair-raising moment, even thinking about it now. I quickly drew the gas gun I had at my waist and fired at Jeongho's face. Psst! 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 What was this? The gas gun that should have gone bang only dribbled gas liquid weakly like a piss stream. The gas cartridge or maintenance must have been defective. But anyway, even in that urgent moment, my face burned hot with embarrassment. In the meantime, Jeongho tried to light the lighter again. Instinctively feeling danger in the absolute crisis situation, I struck down the center of Jeongho's forehead with the heavy gas gun handle. With a dull sound, the gun broke in 2, and as Jeongho rolled his eyes back and fainted, timed with the staff entering the second floor, the tense fire riot incident was suppressed for the moment. We urgently evacuated the unconscious guard while dragging the 4 rioting inmates outside the factory. The staff, extremely agitated from experiencing the situation until now, exploded in anger the moment they saw their colleague being carried out in an unconscious state.
Kill them!
With someone's angry shout, dozens of guards rushed toward them, lying limply in handcuffs, and began trampling them wildly. Generally, in inmate riot incidents, right after suppression is the most dangerous case like this. It's common for people to be seriously injured in the midst of angry staff momentarily losing reason and collectively retaliating. Quickly, I, the security section chief, and 2 or 3 other executives covered the inmates lying on the ground with our bodies to protect them from the staff's attacks. Jeongho, who had just fainted after being hit on the forehead by the gas gun butt, barely woke up and was held in my arms, looking up at me with eyes filled with fear. I blocked the countless incoming kicks and punches with my whole body, and hugging him tightly with both hands, I called Jeongho's name. Having regained consciousness but seeing his loosened pupils turned pale from the excited staff's rough shouting and beating, tears poured out at the pitiful feeling. Jeongho, you must not live like this. You absolutely must not live so miserably like this. At that moment when I shouted with my mouth against Jeongho's ear, I saw tears filling his eyes. What did he think as he looked at my face crying while hugging him and blocking the angry gods venting with my body, and at Cheongsong's sky where acrid smoke was spreading and swirling like a whirlwind? After quite a long time had passed, on a late autumn day, a phone call came to the deputy warden's office at Season Prison.
Hello? This is Jeongho. Long ago at Cheongsong Prison.
Before he could even finish speaking, I asked back in surprise. Ah, Jeongho, Factory 9's Bang Jeongho, right? What's this about? The Cheongsong Prison fire riot incident from long ago flashed through my mind like lightning, and the image of him fainting after being hit by the gas gun handle unfolded before my eyes.
I had business in this area and came, and hearing news that Elder was working here, I came to see you.
He, whom I met in my office, looked incomparably more stable than before. Jeongho, it's really been a long time, so what are you doing these days?
Elder, I have now become an evangelist.
Evangelist, you say? No, how did you become an evangelist? Without knowing it, I stuttered. After release, he gritted his teeth and struggled to try to live a human life, but he said he countless times thought of ending his life due to the despair of being blocked on all sides. However, mysteriously, at every moment of crisis, my voice crying while hugging him and shouting, Jeongho, you absolutely must not live like this, from deep in his heart came to mind and gave him new strength to rise. At the very edge of suffering in his rough life journey, he finally experienced God's grace and belatedly received a calling as an evangelist and was silently carrying out his given ministry. I quietly held his hand as he calmly told this long confession, without even time to wipe my flowing tears. Moisture had already formed in his eyes looking at me, just like back then. Not the fierce-eyed glare screaming in the flames back then, nor the eyes trembling in fear held in my arms, avoiding the excited staff's kicks, but looking at the peaceful eyes of a minister, now filled with the Lord's love, I called to him with force. Evangelist Jeongho, my dear brother,